For today's project, I'm making insulated inserts for the bay windows in my ice castle. Stick around and I'll show you how to do it. For this project, you're going to need a roll of Reflectix. That's 24 inch by 25 feet. It comes in a 10-foot roll too, but our local Menards didn't have it. You need a measuring stick or a tape measure, pen, marker, and that is the tape that will hold that together. Reflectix makes their own tape. Again, our Menards didn't carry it, so this is just a super duper sticky 3M tape that I've got. I use it on a lot of different things. This stuff is actually ironing board cover by the yard, and I got this at Joann's. This is 2 yards. You'll need 2 yards for this project. You'll also need matching thread. Get polyester thread, and then this is called bias tape, so you'll need this to edge the entire project. When we're doing our layout, these boxes represent the windows. So you've got your big center bay window, which measures to the outside of the trim. The big window is 42.25 by 30.5, and then the 2 side windows are 27.25 by 14.5, and that is a 1/4 inch generous on the measurements, meaning I'll have like an 1/8 inch overhang on the frames of each window. And that gives me a little bit of margin for error if I don't sew perfectly straight or whatever. Picture these as the pieces you're making for those windows, okay? So this Reflectix comes in a roll, like that. And you kind of should pay attention to that when you're laying your pieces out to be cut out of the Reflectix. For instance, I want to roll these up for storage this way, you know what I mean? Not this way. When I lay this out onto the Reflectix, I'll keep that in mind the way this stuff rolls up. And even the same thing with the ironing board cover stuff. When you lay everything out on there, you just keep in mind the way the quilting goes, because you don't really want it going every which way. So you don't want like the long diamonds going this way, for instance, on this window, and this way on these, and then maybe this one going another direction. You want to pay attention to basically the grain of the material. We'll lay this out on the Reflectix, and then we'll cut each of these pieces out of the Reflectix and then use those for a template to cut the material out of the ironing board. So laying it out on the Reflectix rolls up this way. So now you can see what I mean by laying this out the way you want these to roll up. And then the large window is going to have to be 2 pieces, because the Reflectix that's like big enough or long, you know, fat enough roll to make that in 1 piece is much bigger, and it's way more expensive. It was like $40, and I just wasn't willing to spend that extra money just so I wouldn't have to piece it together. I don't know. I wasn't going to spend the money. So, at any rate, this bigger window here will have to be 2 pieces of the Reflectix, and that's 42.25 inches now. And this piece below, let's see, way over here. These are the pieces that we're keeping. You know, you can see the line here. This is a piece of scrap. So this scrap piece is the piece that I will add on to, I'll scab it on to make this piece wider, because this is only 24 inches and it needs to be 30.5. So this should be enough to do that. And this cuts with just plain old scissors. No problem. Now we have our scrap piece left. So here's our 2 side windows. 1, 2. So we'll put those aside for now. And we've got our 1 big window piece here that's not quite wide enough for our window. So this is 24 inches, and we need 30.5 inches. So I'll take my scrap piece here and I will attach it. And the smart way to do this is not to join it on the edge that you've cut. So we'll spin, because we've got, you know, the two net edges here, so we'll just spin this around. Theoretically, we should have a nice, perfect match there. See, that fits together much nicer than, you know, us humans can do, I guess. You can tape both sides of this. Alrighty, now we are moving on. This is ironing board material. Ironically, it needs to be ironed. It's got like this, you know, like radiant barrier. That's why it's ironing board cover. So it keeps heat and cold out, or in, well, whatever. So on one side it's like that, and then the other side is like the soft, cottony batting, and it's fluffy. So here's our two small windows. I'm just putting them face down because they tend to curl up otherwise. So cut in the center like that. That way you have just a little bit of excess, you know, just in case something gets cockeyed while you're cutting, or, you know, whatever might happen. It'll just give yourself a little bit of breathing room. This material is expensive enough where you kind of want to pay attention to what you're doing, you know, always, you know, measure twice, cut once. It's just a regular ink pen. I went in the other room and ironed all the this material just to make sure I got all the crinkles and everything out. At this point, we are ready to glue this stuff onto this stuff. So what I'm going to use for that is 3M Super 77 adhesive. I'm not going to do this in my house, so I'm going to go out to the garage and do this part. So lay your pieces out and get the best fit. Make sure you test everything all out and stuff. And get your adhesive, just follow the directions. And let it tack out for about, I don't know, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Placement is critical at this point. This stuff is sticky. And see what I mean about having this like little edge around there? If you didn't have that, you would never get this on there just right. But that's basically how it should look. A good way to do bigger pieces of something like this, whether it's installing a decal or whatever, is they call it the hinge method. That way you're not all willy-nilly all over the place trying to make sure that you get this perfect. So I just stuck a couple of steel dollies on there right where I want it to be. Then I'm just going to carefully bring that back a little bit, and I'm going to spray in here and on this surface, get it ready to tack out, lay it down, and then do the other side. That way I know it drops in place exactly where I want it. Make sure this front edge covers up, you know, the exposed part. Reflectix. I'll just take this. And lay it right down. And then just pretty much do the same thing. You can tell obviously where it was glued, not, so. That should do it. And same thing, just lay it right down. And that's it. Now we're on to putting the edging on here. This is called double fold bias tape. But it opens up like that. But we're gonna, sandwich our material in here. And on this stuff, you'll notice, if you look real close, that one side is shorter than the other side. And that's so you can hide your stitching. So we've got our short side. And you want to open it up like this. Again, this is our short side. And you want to line it up with the outermost section of your inner material here. So you want to line it up. And because this is basically bubble wrap, not this stuff, but the Reflectix, you can't put pins in it because it'll pop the bubbles and lose its insulation. So what I'm using is hairpins. You just slip them on like that, and it holds it just fine without damaging anything. And then just pin it all the way to the end. Make sure again that it lines up with that outermost edge. It's easily adjustable. You can wiggle it out a little bit if you want, if you need to or whatever. And you don't want this to be tight. This stuff, don't pull it tight. You want it taut and level. You don't want it baggy or anything, but you don't want it like stretched on there because it's gonna buckle and get funny when you sew it. So just make sure that it's not tight. And you don't want to start at the corner. Start here, whatever, wherever you want. Just don't start at the corner, because when you get all the way around and it comes time to join all this, if it's on a corner, it'll be a wreck. You can't really do it because we're doing 45s on the corners anyway. When you go along, you're going to sew in this ditch right there. And don't start sewing at the very end here. You want this little tail loose at the end. So start sewing like here or whatever, just so you're not securing this down yet. On my machine, I have gray thread at the top. My top thread is gray, and I also wound the same gray thread into my bobbin. So the stitching on both sides, because it's, I guess, technically going to be exposed on both sides. The Reflectix side is this is the bad side, but you're still going to see it. So I didn't want like white or whatever weird colored bobbin thread on there. I wanted to match the trim, so I loaded my bobbin thread with the same thread I'm using for sewing, so it looks nice on both sides. My sewing machine is set for a straight stitch at 3.5 millimeters. Drop your lever. And do like three stitches, whatever, 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back stitch, 1, 2, 3, whatever, 3 or 4. And that's just to lock your stitching in so it doesn't unravel ever. Then as you come to the pins, just slip them out of there. And this Reflectix stuff is slick, it's shiny, mylar or whatever. It's slippery. So your feed dogs on the machine aren't going to want to walk it through like it normally does with material. So as you're going, you're going to want to kind of assist it through the machine a little bit. Don't jam it through and don't force it through or anything like that. But you'll feel how it wants to take it and just kind of guide it through so it doesn't just do a burnout and gnarl your thread all up. So when you get to the corner on this, we're going to do a 45-degree miter corner so it looks neat, when you go this direction. And, with all this like this, it seems like it would never happen, but what we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way down to about, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch from the edge here. Then we're going to go off to this corner in a 45-degree angle. You know, you got your corner here of your materials. We're gonna go like, this is disappearing ink, so it won't show up. So we're gonna sew along here to there, and then off here, and then do a couple back stitches. And you want it to be fairly accurate so it doesn't look funky. So you just turn your entire piece of work, and then you're just going to come off this corner here at a 45, you know, right to the corner. Then make sure you do your back stitching so it doesn't come undone again. This is how this corner should look. See how we just run off just like that. We've got our piece, it's all sewn to the corner. So now we're going to do our miter. So what you do is you take this, you know, keep it open, take it and fold it back along the 45 that you just sewed. You know, just kind of finger press it. There. You want to fold this piece that away because you want to continue along this edge here. So just kind of hold that there, like I say, just finger press it along the stitching that you did there, and then fold over that way. And the trick to this, to making this make sense really, is that this edge needs to be like lined up with that edge, with this edge. Toss a trusty hairpin in there. And the same thing we're going to do is just make sure it's even with your outermost material. But we just want to make sure that basically from here that way and from there that way is right. So take your little peek under there, check out your 45, make sure it's all good. When we start on the machine again, we're going to sew from this far edge straight down to, you know, until we get to this far corner down here. So when we start here again, you want to do your back stitching. So a couple of regular stitches, and then back stitch. And then away we go. Now we're to the end where we're going to join the bias tape together. This is the piece we're going to be putting on. You know, this is the tailing. And this is the tail that at the beginning I said don't sew down. We're going to take the tailing of where we started and just fold it over and make a nice little hem on there so it's tidy and it won't ravel or anything. So that'll go down there, and then we're going to lay the part where we haven't done yet over that. And you want to make sure this lines up, this where you're sewing this ditch. Try to get that lined up as neatly as you can so it joins nicely. When this folds over, you can see it will have a nice little edge on there. Like here's a better example of how the corners should look. You know, we've got this kind of mess going here, but when you fold it over, see how tidy that corner is? That's how these should look. And of course this will all be sewn down then, you know, when you're all finished. Like that. Now what we're going to do is fold this over. So you're going to just fold, you know, like that, and then fold the whole works over like that, all the way around. And you want to make sure this is like, you know, pretty snug to the edge of the material here. For the back side, we have to do the mitered corners a little bit differently. You bring it in like that. You know, get your corner all taut, and then, I don't know, hopefully you can see that. Same thing, you want to tuck that inside edge flush with this. See how it makes a neat corner? Like that. Just throw a pin on it, keep it there. But that's how you do those 45 so they're neat on both sides. Another tip, if you find something that's really giving you trouble, like say for instance you just can't get this to cooperate. It's coming undone and it's becoming a nightmare, and pinning doesn't help, whatever. You can, you know, get it together the best you can, and then just stick a little piece of Scotch tape on there. And then, you know, you'll probably sew over this, but it's no biggie. You can just pick the little pieces of scraps of tape out of there. The rest of this will just pull off because it's Scotch tape. We're ready to top stitch now, but I want a very small seam allowance here. So I'm just gonna line up the edge of my presser foot with basically the edge of this material, maybe a little tiny bit smaller. So this is it. This is how it should come out. Now we're to the part where we put the Velcro on. These are the little dots that are going to go on the window frames in the ice house. So I'm just using them for size reference here. This is the soft, fuzzy side of the Velcro, and it's not sticky. I didn't want to sew the soft side of these that come with these on here because it gums up my machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut just a little bit bigger than the coin. Maybe, what is that, like maybe a 1-inch square of Velcro. That way you have a little wiggle room, you know, if you don't place it exactly right, it'll still stay up there. Little secret, I hate sewing Velcro. I hate it. I always get all kinds of bird nests and tension issues and whatever. Hate it. Especially if you're sewing, if you have to like sew backwards, you know what I mean, like backtrack and all that kind of stuff through multiple layers like this, it's really bad. It's coming. It's a good thing we have these sweet thermal covers to put on the windows. Just take these little Velcro dots, just stick them on. I'm going to do the top first. You want to line it up to the edges of where you want it to sit. Give it a little push. Do the same over here. Make sure it's nice and straight all the way down. Give that one a push. Give the center one a push. Make sure those are really adhered to the wood. Take a little peek in there. Stick them right on the edge where it's going to meet. And we all know how squarely built these are. You might have to move the little tab in or out a little bit on the framing, you know, where the Velcro is going to meet it. The Velcro tabs on the covers are a little oversized, so you have some wiggle room to mount them. If I end up having trouble with the Velcro spots that I stuck on the wall coming off, I'm just going to pop a little staple in them. I don't really want to put any holes in the wood that I don't have to put there, but I feel like these are worth the little holes that a staple is going to put in, and I think a staple would hold those little Velcro tabs probably till I'm dead. So hopefully the adhesive will do it. If it doesn't, the staple will. And there's no chance of the fuzzy side of the Velcro coming off of the covers because they're sewn on. If you don't feel like you're quite up to the challenge of making these, shoot me an email and I'll sell you a set.